50 miles of land is the only thing stopping the Atlantic from meeting the Pacific, and all the trade, politics, had mountains, rivers, jungles, volcanic rocks, malaria, yellow fever, jaguars, snakes, and is still technically a region. Yellow fever and malaria spread like wildfire. Bodies of dead workers were deposited.
Hey, அங்க கயிறும் கட்டியா தொங்குது.
பெயிண்டிங் வேலை நடக்குது.
ஓ, அப்ப உள்ள பெயிண்டர்ஸ்ங்க இருக்காங்களா?
Built parallel to the old one, increasing maximum size and capacity. New York heard about the sweet gold of West Coast. They had three options: travel across the country by mule, sail around the Cape Horn, sail a boat to Panama, cross the jungle, sail another boat to West Coast. All going well, you will be in Disneyland within 2 months. The Panama jungle was incredibly deadly. Using Irish and Chinese laborers, the railroad was built. 500,000 people traveled within the first 10 years. 50 miles of land is the only thing stopping the Atlantic from meeting the Pacific, and all the trade, politics and power that followed with it. After completing the Suez Canal, Ferdinand de Lesseps returned to Europe as a hero, bringing India 6,000 miles closer. He did it along with his friends Jules Verne, Victor Hugo and Gustave Eiffel. And their next project was the Panama Canal. The Americans already did a survey of the area and was convinced of a lock system in Nicaragua. However, de Lesseps was set for a sea level canal at Panama. It was the shortest route and that's all it mattered. Panama had mountains, rivers, jungles, volcanic rocks, malaria, yellow fever, jaguars, snakes, and is still technically a region of Colombia. Gordon de Lepine pointed out the Suez had been easy for de Lesseps because it was a flat desert. He said it would be impossible to make Panama Canal at sea level. He suggested making artificial lakes and locks. Everyone laughed. They all counted on de Lesseps to make it at sea level. Using Caribbean and Indian workers, the jungle was began to be chopped back in 1881. Annual rainfall in Panama could be 3 meters. The death toll was about 40 a day. Yellow fever and malaria spread like wildfire. Bodies of dead workers were deposited on dumping wells. People spoke of dead ships arriving from the Caribbean, the crew dead even before reaching Panama. In 1889, the French company became bankrupt and work came to a halt. 800,000 investors lost their money and 22,000 their lives. Theodore Roosevelt was elected as US President a decade later. He was convinced the US Navy need quick access to the Pacific Ocean and a canal is the only way. The Panama and Nicaragua debate surfaced and Panama winning again. If the French hadn't made their effort, the canal would have possibly been in Nicaragua. But a lot of work is already started and the ambitious America couldn't resist in succeeding what the mightiest French had. Slight problem was Panama has a region owned by Colombia, and Colombia was not willing to give that up. In 1903, Colombia was in political interest and the US turned directly to Panama. Hey, do you want to be a new country? If we were to have a revolution, we wouldn't not protect you with our massive warships? Yeah, sure. And Panama signed a treaty giving US total control over the canal once they become independent. A series of locks on either side of the oceans to raise the ships 26 meters above sea level. A dam was built on Chagas River and a huge area of central Panama was flooded. 164 square miles of jungles, town, railroad would be lost in the water, creating Gatun Lake. Chagas River became the lifeline of the lock system, feeding them with constant water supply. Still, a large amount of engineering was required with labor. Mountains have to be cut through. Gatun Dam should be one of the largest in the world, etc. etc. 33 years, 118 million cubic meter of earth, 27,000 lives later, the canal was finished. Its completion bookmarked the end of a global era. The first ship to cross the Panama Canal is SS Ancon. She She is a passenger ship under the flag of United States of America. It belongs to Boston Steamship Company. In coming years, it became the lifeline of global travel. 5% of all world trade passes through the canal. Tensions between US and Panama continued to rise. Panamanians believed the control of the canal was rightfully theirs. After US pressured UK and France to give up their claim to Suez, many of the Panamanians believed it to be hypocritical, which caused building international pressure on US. In 1977, Jimmy Carter signed a treaty granting Panama future ownership of the canal as long as it remained a neutral waterway. In 2007, Panama began the expansion of their canal. Two new sets of locks were built parallel to the old one, increasing maximum size and capacity. The expansion itself was a massive project, taking almost as long as the Americans did. The issue of who built the canal was complicated. It was the US who built the railroad with Irish and Chinese workers. French excavated 15 million cubic meter of rock with Indians and Jamaicans. The US finished the job with Caribbean and Central American workers. Most of the canal you actually see today was built by the Panamanians. Human progress requires scale and ambition exceeding generations. This canal, unleashed as a project built by many people and nations working together across continents and sometimes centuries.